Hey, everybody, Dave here. Hope you're having an awesome day. So, a couple weeks back, one of my viewers recommended sculpting a shrunken head. So, I got out my pen and paper and sketched up this little guy here. He's super silly, and I kind of like him. So, let's see if we can sculpt him. All right, here's one more look at this silly sketch. I think he should fit in the Lunkhead Bob family, right? So I've had this base for about 5 years in my closet, and I've just hung on to it. It's got this hole in the front. It was for a small little lamp or something. I ripped the felt off the bottom. I've got this hole in the front here. I'm going to put a plaque over that, I think. And I've got this dowel, but that's too loose. And I've got one other dowel that's a little bit thicker. And I want to use this kind of as an armature to kind of hold the head on there and then almost display it like a museum piece. So I'm going to go ahead and just drill this out. And then once I got that drilled, I'll take that wooden dowel and kind of just force it in there. It was a tight fit, but that's okay because I'm going to actually use this to actually support the clay head itself, almost like an armature. So cut off about 4 or 5 inches. And then I was looking at the base. The blonde wood's a little too light for me. I want it to look like a museum piece. So I'm going to take this shoe polish and I mix it with some water. And it ended up being way too light. So I'm going to go ahead and just lather it on there. This ended up working. It took about 4 or 5 coats. I probably should have just got a darker stain and made it easier on myself. But I got it to work in the end. I'm going to go ahead and weather up the dowel as well. And then let's get to sculpting the head. I'm going to take a giant ball of aluminum foil. And in the past, I've kind of just crumpled up the foil and just worked with it. But I've tried to sculpt the foil a little bit more in the almost pear shape of my shrunken head here. I've got these wooden balls for eyes. And I'm not sure. I feel like they're too big. So I'm kind of just sculpting out the face there. And then I'm going to take some not Magic Sculpt. That's what I normally use, but I am using Super Sculpey here. And I rolled out a flat piece, and I'm just going to kind of lay it over the front of the face, squishing those eyes. And I'm doing this just so I can kind of get a vibe for, are these eyes going to work? And right off the bat, I'm like, I think they look too big. So let me go ahead and put a little flap on the back here and kind of finish out the head. And then I thought, you know what? I've got these steel balls, these bearings, and maybe this would work. Now, I saw that, and I was like, that's way too small. So I was digging around in my bits box, and I found these. Too easy. So I'm going to have to figure out something there. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and get this mounted and ready to go. I think I'm going to run to the store and see if I can find some different eyes. Got back from the store, and I kind of got something that was in between the larger eye and the ball bearing. So I think this is probably about right. So I'm going to go ahead and just go with this. Now I'm using the wooden balls, and this is going to work because I'll be able to bake this in the oven for the Super Sculpey. So I just flattened out some clay. Now, I am not by any means a master sculptor, but I have been watching a lot of really good clay sculptors and just seeing some of the techniques that they do. And so I'm trying to incorporate some of their techniques, like putting the eyeball on and then layering skin over the top and being a little bit more careful in the steps that I take to do my sculpture. So again, I'm learning, and I think it's super fun. And I'm actually really starting to enjoy sculpting quite a bit. I am by no means a master at this, but I think this is a fun video just to show you kind of how I work through and how I'm learning as well. So just sculpting out the eyelids there, and then you can see I just rolled the little piece, and I'm going to do the under eyelid. As I go through, I'm kind of looking at, are the eyes open enough? Are they closed enough? I will end up kind of cutting out some of that eyelid in the bottom, just blending that in. I don't have to be super careful right now because I can always add and push things around. So just blending in the clay here. I'll smooth all this out a little bit later. You can see at this point right here, I was like, I might need to open this up just a little bit. So here's a fun story while I do a little bit more sculpting. When I was in high school, I played on our high school basketball team, and I got elbowed in the eye when I was probably 16, and it cut my upper brow. And what makes me think of this story is kind of cutting away at the eye. I had this massive scar tissue over my right eye, where my eye actually was kind of drooping a little bit because I had so much scar tissue. In my 20s, my sister worked for a plastic surgeon that did eye surgeries for cancer patients. And I went out to visit my sister in San Diego one time, and she said, "Hey, I set up an appointment for you to have some plastic surgery to get your eye fixed." And I was like, "Okay." So I go in, and the doctor that did the surgery was literally like 80 something years old. And he comes in with a scalpel. They got me in the chair. He comes in with a scalpel, and his hand is literally like quivering. And I was like, "Oh my goodness!" My heart rate was going off the charts because I thought I'm gonna lose my eye. But he went in and cut out the scar tissue and refixed my right eye, and it's been great ever since. And so if you're wondering like how I had such a beautiful face, it's because I've had plastic surgery. I've had work done, so I feel like a true Californian. Anyways, you can see here I'm bulking out the sides of the head because the head was a little too narrow, and I want the head to kind of have some shape where it comes up. And so I added just a little bit more dome on the top of the head as well. So now that head will come down, and it looks like there's the temples that are kind of creased in. So I'm liking how this is looking. Just taking a sculpting tool, and I'm going to just carve in some wrinkles. I did smooth those out a little bit, and I can really see things coming together. I see the back of the head needs quite a bit more on, but I don't want to put it on just yet because I don't want to push and pull and ruin all of my sculpting. So I'm going to hang tight for that for just a second. But before I bake this, I need to think about the hair. And so I've got this twine, and so I'm just poking a hole in. I've never done this before. I've seen people do like hair punching. That's a little bit different. And I've seen, how like baby dolls are made, and they just have the weird holes in the head, and they just pop the yarn through. So I thought, seems like the same concept. So I'm just going to take my tool here and just bloop, 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 pop holes all around the head here, and I'll go all the way in circles until I get a full complete ring of little dots that I can poke the hair in. Now, unfortunately, I didn't film putting all the hair in, but you can see there I baked it, and it actually worked out really nice. Now I'm going to go ahead and add on the back of the head here and really just bulking out the shape of the head. I like that quite a bit more. Now for the ear, I just used a little slab of clay and kind of started with the basic shape of an ear, and then I wanted him to have these gauges. And a buddy of mine had these washers. They were cleaning out their shop and asked if I wanted them. I'm like, yeah, sure, that'd be great. So I got a hole, kind of crammed it in there, then rolled a little snake of clay, and I'm building out the upper shape of the ear. I'll do the same for the inner part of the ear. I'll roll 2 more little pieces of clay and sculpt those in there. So this is kind of what I'm doing here, just kind of massaging the clay in. And here is the ear. You can see I added some little wrinkles around the edge. And I'm just kind of looking at the placement of it, and I'll have to duplicate the same ear on the other side. Now the ears have not been baked yet, but I do want to check out really quick the placement of the mouth and kind of see where I want to do that. And while the head is baking the ears, I'm going to go ahead and sculpt out the lips here and kind of see how I want to do it. Now originally I had the mouth smiling really big, but I think I'm going to go a little bit more straight across and make him look a little bit more sad. So I'm kind of sculpting the lips in, and then once I get them sculpted in, I need to poke some little holes where the strings will go to make little X's. Now after this, I baked it, and then I primed it, and then I painted it this green color. Used a little bit of silly putty to protect the eyes because I want to paint those white. I'm painting a little bit of color on the lips. Now I'm going to layer color, layer color, layer color. I don't know exactly where I want to take this thing. I could have left it a little bit more clean, but I went ahead and ended up going a little bit more aged with this. And I tend to do that kind of stuff. I really like that. But you can see those eyes have about 3 or 4 coats of white on them. Then I'm taking some black wash and just coating the whole thing. And then I'll take a little paper towel and wipe that off. And it's kind of showing some of the high spots and the low spots. I did get a little bit in the eyes, but that's okay. I kind of brushed that out a little bit and then take an old scrubby sponge and kind of scrub off some of that, and it even brings out more of the highlights. So this is kind of coming along pretty nice. Then I'm going to take a paint marker and I'll color in those pupils. And then a company called Gallery sent me a Turbo X Mini. It's a really small air compressor, and it's great for starters when you're airbrushing. I don't do a lot of airbrushing, but this tool has been really nice. I'll leave a link for them. Not paid, they just sent me a brush to try out. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to spray paint like a really dark black around the rim of the eyes, almost like Uncle Fester. So I think this is really fun. I dry brushed some brighter teals. You can see I did airbrush some purples in there. And I'm really just trying to bring out the highlights. I'm going to take this high gloss clear. I'm going to do a little bit on the lips and a little bit on the eyes. And I'm really close to the home stretch. I think the last thing I want to do is make a little museum plaque. So thanks to my buddy Luke, who helped me laser cut this. It turned out awesome. I love this thing. And I think these little touches are exactly what we need. So I kind of measured out the center area here. And once I got that centered up, I'll get some super glue, glue this bad boy on, and I think we're going to call this one done.
All right. This was so much fun. Some projects are really enjoyable, and this was a great one. I'm calling him Shrunken Ted. And yeah, let's do some turnaround shots of him. And as always, it is a great day to be a toy nerd or sculpture nerd or art nerd. Go do what you like to do and make it awesome. Later.